Hi, I need to get my apple tree pruned, and I thought I'd bring you along and teach you how to prune an apple tree if you've never done it. So this is my apple tree. It's the second year that I've lived in this home. The first year I had to cut it back pretty hard because it hadn't been pruned properly for quite some time. But this year I can come in and do a little bit more proper pruning. What we want to focus on very first are these branches that are taking up the center. Now these grew last year, all in 1 year. You can tell because they're just long and straight, and there's not any turns to it like this one. This one you can tell came out here. I pruned it off here, and then it branched. Okay, so wherever you prune it, the buds behind that are going to branch. So let me. I guess the first thing I'm going to do is take out all of these things that are clogging up the center of the tree. And I'm going to prune it right down here, right against the base of this branch. This is called the collar. I'm going to prune it right along the collar. I'll get those cleaned up, and then I'll teach you how to prune for fruit production. Because if you prune off certain parts of this tree, you're not going to get fruit. And so we want to make sure that you understand the concept of how to prune these apple trees properly. Okay, here's those two. They're taking up the middle of the tree. I'm going to prune it right along the collar here, okay? And take those two out. I've got this little branch here. It's coming out into the center of the tree, and I want to take that one out. So I'll take it right along the collar. When you take it along the collar, this is able to heal properly. If you prune it out, by a couple of inches and leave a bud, especially if there's a bud, it's going to grow again. But if you prune it out like this, it's not going to heal up quite right. So you want those to be right along the collar. It's kind of like a little bump right before the branch grows. That's the collar. Prune it there, and you should be able to get that healed up just fine. So let me take you back to this branch as an example of what pruning does in order to produce fruit. So this branch had grown out last year. At this time last year, I pruned it here. These outer buds, there were 4 buds right here at the end of the branch. They all turn into branches, right? They're going to branch out this way and put on leaves. This is your branches, those 4 buds. Now, if I come in closer, see if we can get it out of the shade. If I come down the branch farther, you have these. They didn't turn into branches. Do you see that? These little nubby things, these are called spurs. All right, you're gonna produce spurs when you prune a branch, okay? Spurs are where you get your flowers. If you want your apple tree to produce fruit for you, you have to have flowers. So you want to be able to develop spurs. You don't want to cut these little spurs off. Here, let me pull you back out. So you want to be able to produce spurs so you have flowers, and then you end up getting fruit. So that's why we prune. If we don't prune, we don't get the spurs proper, and we don't open up the tree for the proper amount of light. If you have a bunch of long branches, you want to make sure you get these pruned so you can develop these spurs. All right. When fruit starts coming on your tree, only leave about one fruit per 6 inches of branch. You just measure like this with your fingers, about 1 fruit. That's called thinning. We'll get to that part, as we start growing more fruit. But you have to develop spurs. If you don't have spurs on your tree, you won't have fruit. So if you've had an apple tree a long time, you've pruned it, you thought you've done an okay job, but not developed spurs because you keep cutting those things off, that's why you don't have fruit. Let me show you this as well. Sometimes spurs kind of get overcrowded. If you have too many spurs in one area, you should probably think about thinning the spurs out, or at least cutting parts of this off, so that you don't have so much just clustered in one area. I don't want this tree to continue to get taller. I'm gonna bring the top of this tree down. See where I pruned it from last year? That's where, all that's the new growth. This tree is tall enough, I'm gonna bring it all down. I don't want this apple tree really to get any taller than it already is. Apple trees are good to kind of splay out and stay short. I want to be able to harvest without getting up on ladders or climbing the tree. So I'm going to bring these back down to where I pruned them before, and for the most part this tree's done. It doesn't take a whole lot of time, not a whole lot of effort, but you need to know kind of the basics of how to prune a tree. So those basics are: take out anything crowding the middle, make sure you're developing for spurs so that you have flowers, and then manage the tree's height. Bring the tree down. Also important to know, look at where your buds are facing. If I'm going to prune the top of this branch here, I want to make sure there's a bud that's facing on the outside of the tree so it grows out. If I leave a bud on the inside of the tree at the top, it's going to grow in, and those are the branches we're going to have to cut off next year anyways. So if you're leaving, like this one, it's facing into the tree, I'm going to cut that off, and then I'm going to leave an outward facing bud. Any branches that are crossing over each other, we want to get rid of. If I've got spur production here, I want to come out here a couple of buds after the spurs, so that these can continue to grow leaves while these develop fruit. So looking at an example here, you can see that we're developing spurs along the stem. We want to go up a few buds here and find an outward facing bud and cut just above that. That outward facing bud will cause it to branch outward from the tree, and these ones will continue to develop spurs. We want the spurs, want an outward facing bud. All right, I'm gonna finish this up. Okay, so here's the apple tree all done. I am, disclaimer, I am not a professional pruner, but you know, I try, and that's all you can do. So I still might take a few things off here and there. Just kind of open up those branches a little bit more. But for the most part, that tree's done. Hopefully that explained how to prune an apple tree a little bit better for you. And good luck on pruning your own. If you have more questions, ask somebody else, because that's all I got. Just kidding. All right, see you guys.